What stops us using our talents? That's the question for today. And there is this unbelievably acute parable, which is in Matthew's Gospel, which is known as the parable of the talents. And I think what stops us is fear. And I want to explore that using this parable. It's a strange thing. But just remember the parable, and there is sort of a sense of injustice about it, which is really important. But the first thing is there are three people. They get given 5 talents. Now, the first one gets given 5 talents. A talent, by the way, is a Greek bit of currency, so it's literally a bit of money. It's come to mean talent like we use it, and I think that's a good way of looking at the parable in the sense of having those both ideas. First one with 5 talents, he gets given this, he goes away, and he comes back years later, when the master comes back and says, "What have you done with the talents?" He said, "Well, I took your 5 talents, I did various things, I've come back with 5 more, here's your money back." And he says, "Well done, that's brilliant." The next person had a lot fewer talents. He only had 2 talents. When the master comes back years later, he says, "What have you done with them?" He said, "Well, I've done a few things. I've actually now got 4 talents, so you can have your first 2 talents back, and I've made some more." The master says, "Brilliant, well done. You can come with me." Comes to the third person. The third person has only got the 1 talent, which you always think, "Oh, it's a bit tough on him. He's only got the 1 talent compared with these others." But remember, another person only had 2 talents. He had less than the 5. He still made something of it. And the person with 1 talent gives his reasons. The others just say, "Oh yeah, I made some extra talents." He said, "I knew," he said, "I knew you're a master who gathered where you did not sow. You reap where you haven't sown. So I knew you could be difficult. So I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to save it." He hides it in the ground, does nothing with his talent at all, comes back and says, "Here you are." The master goes mad. He said, "At least you could have left it with the bankers. You could have got some interest on it. You've done nothing with it. Get out of my sight." And you feel for this person. Why did he get rejected? And I think just flip it a little bit onto an internal subject. How did that person feel about himself, and what was stopping him? Because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. "I knew you were a cruel master," kind of thing. Well, he wasn't cruel to the first people. And I think if he tried to do something with his talent, the master wouldn't have been bothered. He could have lost that talent trying to do something. The point is, the master wants you to try. And there's that reason, there's a theologically acute thing. God leaves the process of creation unfinished. He gives us, he makes us, and then we have free will. We can do what we like with this life. This life is just given to us. What are we to do with it, given the talents that we have? And the crime, and at the end of our lives, we accuse ourselves of the crime more than anyone else, is not to even have a go at using the talent. And what we really, I think, should be aware of is fear stopping us. You need a bit of a discernment. You might think, "Well, I've got a bit of a talent for football. I could become a Premier League footballer," and then it doesn't happen. Well, okay. But you had a go. Doesn't matter that you didn't become a Premier League footballer. You had a go. That would be okay. I think more insidious is just a fear that we think someone will laugh at us or we'll be made to look a fool of. But I think that fear is largely in our mind. And I think sometimes I've been sitting there on a dance floor. You see a dance floor, maybe at a wedding or something, and there's a kind of disco happening afterwards. And especially adults, and especially British men. They're kind of at the edge of the dance floor, and you can see them half kind of tapping one foot, and they can't quite bring themselves to dance. And they can't, and then maybe at the very end of the evening they get on the dance floor, and then once they're on the dance floor, they're having a great time, because dancing just makes you feel good. Why didn't they do it earlier? Why didn't they get on the dance floor earlier? What was stopping them? It wasn't that they weren't skilled enough. These days, it's not like you have to learn how to do a quick step to dance. You just sort of move about a bit, jiggle your arms. I think what stops people is just a sort of fear they're going to look a fool. And it's tragic. I think we can believe other people are looking at us and criticising us much more than they are. And it stops us from even having a go. So the people at the dance floor, they're like the guy with 1 talent. So I didn't want to go on the dance floor because I thought I might get it wrong or something. So I just, didn't do anything. And if we live our lives like that, it's a tragic waste of what God's given us. God gives us this life, but we have to choose to make of something with it. And that, I think, is the message of the parable of the talents.